She was the most beautiful woman in the world. A goddess on screen, untouchable, magnetic. But Ava Gardner carried secrets that would have destroyed lesser stars. Behind those emerald eyes and that devastating smile lived a woman who broke every rule Hollywood tried to impose on her. She drank like a sailor, loved like a wildfire, and refused to apologize for any of it. The studio executives wanted to control her. The gossip columnists wanted to expose her. But Ava, she just wanted to live free. And what she did behind closed doors became the stuff of legend. This is the story they didn't want you to know. When Ava Gardner arrived in Hollywood in 1941, she was just a barefoot farm girl from North Carolina with a face that stopped traffic. MGM signed her immediately, but they had no idea what they were getting into, because Ava Gardner wasn't interested in playing by their rules. She was interested in living. And living, for Ava, meant indulging in everything the golden age had to offer. Consequences be damned. The drinking started early. Not the elegant champagne sipping you'd see in the movies. No, Ava drank hard liquor. Whiskey, vodka, tequila straight from the bottle. She could outdrink most of the men in Hollywood, and she often did. At parties, while other starlets nursed their cocktails and smiled politely, Ava was at the bar, laughing too loud, telling dirty jokes, and challenging anyone who'd listen to keep up with her. The studio heads were horrified. This wasn't how a leading lady was supposed to behave. But behind the cameras, the truth was darker. Ava used alcohol to numb the pain of a life that looked perfect from the outside but felt empty within. Her first marriage to Mickey Rooney lasted less than a year. She was 19, he was a superstar, and the whole thing was a disaster. Mickey cheated constantly, and Ava learned quickly that Hollywood romances were built on lies and publicity. The drinking helped her forget. It helped her cope with the endless studio demands, the controlling executives, the photographers who followed her everywhere. Every time a relationship fell apart, every time the loneliness became unbearable, she'd reach for another bottle. Her second marriage to bandleader Artie Shaw was even worse. Shaw was an intellectual who thought he could mold Ava into some kind of sophisticated society wife. He gave her reading lists, criticized her southern accent, made her feel stupid. The marriage lasted barely a year, but the damage lasted much longer. And this was only the beginning. Then came Frank Sinatra, the love of her life, the man who would break her heart over and over again. When they met in 1949, Frank was married to his first wife Nancy, and he was willing to throw it all away for Ava. Their affair was explosive, passionate, destructive. They drank together, fought together, made up together. Hotel rooms were trashed. Plates were thrown. Neighbors called the police. It was toxic and addictive, and neither of them could walk away. What happened next shocked Hollywood. Frank left his wife and children for Ava. The press crucified him. His career nearly ended. And Ava? She felt the weight of that guilt every single day. So she drank more. She stayed out all night. She picked fights with Frank just to feel something other than the crushing responsibility of being the woman who destroyed America's favorite family man. They married in 1951, and it should have been a fairy tale. But fairy tales don't exist in Hollywood. Frank's career was in free fall while Ava's was skyrocketing. She became the bigger star, and he couldn't handle it. His ego, his Italian pride, his need to be the provider, all of it crumbled. They fought constantly. He was jealous, possessive, convinced she was cheating. She was wild, independent, refusing to be controlled. The drinking got worse for both of them. Fans had no idea what was really happening. But Ava's habits went beyond just alcohol. She had a mouth that would make a truck driver blush. In an era when actresses were expected to be demure and ladylike, Ava cursed like she was still back on the tobacco farm. The F word was her favorite adjective. She'd drop it casually in interviews, at premieres, in meetings with studio executives who'd turn pale with shock. She didn't care. She'd grown up rough, and she wasn't about to pretend to be something she wasn't just because Hollywood wanted a princess. Her sexual appetite was equally legendary. Ava loved men, and she didn't hide it. In an era of strict moral codes and censorship, she had affairs with some of the most famous men in the world. Bullfighters, musicians, actors, She loved the danger, the excitement, the freedom of it. Howard Hughes pursued her relentlessly, showing up at her door with flowers and jewelry. She slept with him a few times and then got bored. When he wouldn't leave her alone, she literally ran away to Spain. Spain became her escape, her refuge, away from Hollywood's judgment and America's puritanical expectations. Ava could finally breathe. She rented a house in Madrid, drank wine all afternoon, stayed up until dawn with flamenco dancers and artists and bullfighters. She attended bullfights religiously, falling in love with the danger and the blood and the raw masculinity of it all. She had a passionate affair with the famous matador Luis Miguel Dominguez, who taught her Spanish and showed her a world where women could be fierce and sensual without apology. The Spanish years were when Ava truly became herself. No studio telling her what to wear, who to date, how to behave. She walked through Madrid in the middle of the night, drunk and happy, with locals who loved her for her spirit, not her fame. She danced until her feet bled. She sang off-key in bars. She lived with an intensity that most people only dream about. But even in paradise, the demons followed. The drinking never stopped. Bottles of wine with lunch, whiskey before dinner, cognac until sunrise. Her hands started to shake. Her famous face began to show the years of abuse. And still she couldn't stop. Because for Ava, stopping meant feeling. And feeling meant remembering everything she'd lost. Her relationship with Frank continued to haunt her long after their divorce in 1957. They'd call each other drunk in the middle of the night, professing love, screaming hatred, unable to let go. Frank would fly to wherever she was filming just to see her. She'd show up at his concerts unannounced. They were addicted to each other in the most unhealthy way possible, and everyone around them could see it was destroying them both. As the years passed, Ava's career began to fade. The roles got smaller, the offers less frequent. Hollywood had moved on to younger faces, newer stars. And Ava, proud and defiant, refused to chase it. She took the roles she wanted and turned down everything else. She lived in London, then back to Spain, always moving, always running from something she could never quite name. The loneliness became unbearable. She'd lived such a big life, loved so many men, experienced so much, and yet she ended up alone. The drinking intensified. She'd sit in her apartment surrounded by photographs of her younger self, that impossibly beautiful girl who'd once been the most desired woman on earth, and she'd drink until the memories didn't hurt quite so much. In the 1980s, she suffered 2 strokes that left her partially paralyzed. The woman who'd once danced until dawn could barely walk. Her speech was slurred, her movements slow. But even then, even broken and fading, she refused pity. When friends visited, she'd still pour the drinks, still tell the dirty stories, still laugh that deep, raspy laugh that had captivated the world. Ava Gardner died in 1990 at the age of 67. Her body had finally given out after decades of punishment. But in those final years, when journalists asked if she had any regrets, she'd say the same thing every time. I did it my way. And she had. For better or worse, Ava Gardner lived exactly how she wanted, paid exactly the price she expected, and never once apologized for being human.